Joining us now over the phone is ESPN.com college hoops analyst John Gasaway, who frankly lives his life on the bubble with all of those bubble teams in the NCAA tournament. John, welcome to BYU Sports Nation.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
What's your daily routine like in the month of March as a college basketball analyst and pseudo-bracketologist?
I wake up bleary-eyed from having watched usually some Mountain West game until late Eastern time at night, and then I have to roll out of bed promptly and check how the various metrics that the actual committee looks at, how those have changed overnight. Make sure that all the categories at Bubble Watch at ESPN.com still makes sense given what has changed, and just dive right in. It's hectic, but it's only roughly from the Super Bowl to Selection Sunday, and it's an interesting way to live. It gives me the rest of the year to kick around it.
Yeah, it's like a sprint for a month, right? Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so where do you have BYU as it pertains to the bubble and the NCAA tournament?
I love when there's universal agreement. It's not only Bubble Watch that has BYU as one of the first four teams out. BracketMatrix.com has them in the exact same place. My good friend and colleague Joe Lunardi has BYU as one of the first four teams out, which of course means the committee is going to make BYU a one seed. None of us are the committee, and everything that we're going to say going forward here carries that disclaimer. The committee will do whatever it wants, but based on past selections and a lot of work, this is the consensus right now that if the selection were held today, BYU would be just on the wrong side of the cut line.
ESPN college hoops analyst John Gasaway with us on BYU Sports Nation. John, I feel strongly, and I've been saying this for a few weeks, that if BYU just gets an opportunity at a quad one win in Las Vegas at the WCC tournament by taking on San Francisco, just maybe that's enough to push them on the right side of the bubble. Of course, they got to beat either LMU or Pacific on Friday to earn that opportunity now. But in your opinion, if BYU wins that first game and then they beat a good USF team head-to-head on Saturday night, is that enough to bolster the Cougars' resume and put them into the bracket?
It is absolutely necessary that they first survive the game against LMU or Pacific and then beat San Francisco. That is absolutely necessary. Whether that will be enough, we can't say, and it might not be, because if you look at the teams that are right, side by side with BYU, they need wins too, and they are in conference tournaments too, and they'll get quad one opportunities. So, teams like SMU, for example, can run into Houston in their conference tournament, perhaps. Oregon maybe can run into UCLA or USC or somebody. So everybody who's on the bubble is in this similar boat. The only team that's competing team that BYU has a real advantage on that way is Loyola Chicago. They're not going to get good opportunities in the Missouri Valley tournament. So, yes, BYU does need to beat San Francisco, and even that might not be enough, sadly.
Yeah, and the hope is that BYU gets that chance and then plays competitively enough against Gonzaga on the Monday in the semifinal to not drop too far. Okay, so give us a sense of, on the bubble, how far in do you need to be to feel comfortable? Because if you're one of the first four in, you're still maybe, out. Do you need to get into those first four bye spots to feel a little better?
Yes, because the committee usually drops at least one bombshell, that makes everybody go, what? We had that team, not just first four out, but next four out, and they're in. And sometimes, I like to imagine the committee doing it on purpose. Say, look, this will get all those guys at bracketology. We're just going to do this out of left field. So, yeah, absolutely. And, last year, for people with a long memory, last year was kind of strange because there were a smaller number of games, all the cancellations. But still, people thought they felt pretty good about Louisville getting in, and the committee said, no, that's going to Utah State instead. So there's certainly always the potential for a significant surprise, yes.
John, if you would be so kind and explain to me a team like North Carolina versus a team like BYU when you just look at the resume. The Tar Heels have a better net than BYU by roughly 10 spots, depending on, what day you're looking at it. But they have one quad one win, and they have a quad four loss, almost inexplicably, against Pitt at home, just like BYU had against Pacific. So why are those two teams viewed so differently when BYU is 4-5 or 3-4 in quad one opportunities, and North Carolina only has one quad one win?
Well, what the net ranking is responding to is it thinks that North Carolina is the stronger team based on the whole season. The net looks at games that North Carolina has lost to and how well they did in those losses. And it thinks that if we could get and just speaking head-to-head here, if we could get the Tar Heels and the Cougars together on a neutral floor and play a best-of-7 series, or better yet, 100 games, the net's pretty confident that North Carolina would come out on top on that. So that's what that is speaking to. Now, the committee looks at two completely independent types of metrics, and the net ranking is a sorting metric, but it also is measuring team strength. The committee likes to look at metrics called strength of record is one and KPI is the other, and those just look at wins and losses. They're not looking at the strength of your performance at all. They're just looking at, which games did you win and which did you lose. So that's where North Carolina is a little weaker. And, on balance, they're coming in above BYU, not by much, but it's a significant portion of Division I where you say you're about 6 spots ahead of BYU. That's not a lot, but it's the difference between in and out right at this portion that we're talking about.
And I wonder if Oregon has, a nice little finish to the season, maybe gets a couple wins here and there and climbs into the top 50 and becomes another quad win for BYU, that perhaps with 5 quad one wins, because BYU has 4 at the moment, maybe that might be in BYU's favor. We'll see. You have to win, right, but you also have to hope the teams around you do well, but also Oregon's in the mix for one of those bubble positions, so it's awkward. And we've talked about, do we want Oregon to just straight up lose, or do we want them to win a little bit to become top 50 and somehow still be out?
Right. These are great examples because Oregon, is the opposite of North Carolina. Oregon's the kind of Rutgers of the Pac-12, where they came within a possession of sweeping, UCLA and USC, and that's incredible. They didn't quite get it done. They did sweep UCLA, but they've got some terrible losses too, and just a really tough team to figure. So you're right. If these numbers that we were talking about with BYU and North Carolina, if you look at them with Oregon, the metrics are like, you're crazy. They're not even close. No way. But, if you see them play basketball, you know how good they are. You know they're capable of beating anybody. And what the Ducks have to do right now is take care of business on the road against Washington State to even stay in this conversation.
John, hypothetically speaking, if BYU beats USF, what are the chances that the West Coast Conference actually puts 4 teams into the tournament?
It could happen, and that is the blessing and the curse of membership in a conference that good. Is BYU kind of got into this first 4 out fix in the first place because the Cougars lost 4 in a row, and with 3 of those, you say, well, this is a really good league. Losing at Santa Clara and even at home to San Francisco, and of course at home to Gonzaga, no shame there. And that's true. Great teams have lost all those games. St. Mary's lost at Santa Clara. But you throw in that, Pacific loss, and that's exactly what happens to teams in leagues like the Big 12, is they lose 4 games in a row, and you're like, well, what are you going to do? You go, no, wait a minute. Look at this. This is 1 loss to West Virginia. That's actually pretty bad. That's kind of what happened to BYU, and it's a good thing for the West Coast Conference front office that the league is strong enough to quite conceivably put 4 teams in. But you've got to be vigilant, man, when you're playing your league schedule, and that did come up and bite BYU a little bit. It's a combination of things, but that is one of the things.
John, if you had to put a % chance on BYU making the tournament, what would you put it at right now?
I would put it at about 40%.
Okay. Great stuff.
Which is good. I want to point out, if you tell me,
I take it.
If you tell me I've got a 40% chance of winning the lottery tonight, I am really excited.
Yes.
That's great. Yeah. So I think it's a good chance.
Hey, we appreciate your time, especially in the midst of such a crazy month. So thanks for hanging out with us on BYU Sports Nation. Let's do it again soon. And I wish you rest once March Madness, or at least Selection Sunday, is over.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me.